In their fatuity, those who sounded the dominant note of chivalrous pretense acknowledged almost no restraints whatsoever in the degree of self-indulgence and regressive nostalgia they permitted themselves. Here is a typical anti-suffragist passage dedicated to the favorite theme of motherhood. Whether the child's heart pulses beneath her own or throbs against her breast, motherhood demands above all tranquility, freedom from contest, from excitement, from the heart-burnings of strife. The welfare, mental and physical, of the human race rests, to a more or less degree, upon that tranquility. To this stimulating stuff, one might oppose the words of the great feminist and abolitionist, Sojourner Truth, a slave in New York until that state finally abolished slavery in 1827, whereupon she was licensed to graduate to domestic service. Speaking at a woman's rights convention in Akron, Ohio, in 1851, Sojourner Truth answered a cleric who had argued with courtly aplomb that as women were helpless physical weaklings, they weren't entitled to civil rights. That man over there says women need to be helped into carriages and lifted over ditches and to have the best place everywhere. Nobody ever helps me into carriages or over puddles or gives me the best place. And ain't I a woman? Look at this arm. I have plowed and planted and gathered into barns, and no man could head me. And ain't I a woman? I could work as much and eat as much as a man, when I could get it, and bear the lash as well. And ain't I a woman? I have borne 13 children, and seen most of 'em sold off to slavery, and when I cried out with my mother's grief, none but Jesus heard me. And ain't I a woman? It is necessary to realize that the most sacrosanct article of sexual politics in the period, the Victorian doctrine of chivalrous protection and its familiar protestations of respect, rests upon the tacit assumption, a cleverly expeditious bit of humbug, that all women were ladies, namely members of that fraction of the upper classes and bourgeoisie which treated women to expressions of elaborate concern, while permitting them no legal or personal freedoms. The psycho-political tactic here is a pretense that the indolence and luxury of the upper-class woman's role in what Veblen called vicarious consumption was the happy lot of all women. The efficacy of this maneuver depends on dividing women by class and persuading the privileged that they live in an indulgence they scarcely deserve. A use of intimidation in one class and envy in another effectively prevents solidarity. The young middle-class woman could be frightened into social and sexual conformity with the specters of governessing, factory work, or prostitution. And the less favored female is left only to dream of becoming a lady, the single improvement to her situation she is permitted to conceive of, the hope of acquiring social and economic status through attracting the sexual patronization of the male. Despite the fact that class feeling prevented this from happening very often, it is a recurrent and favorite fantasy in the literature of the period. When the only known freedom is a gilded voluptuousness attainable through the largesse of someone who owns and controls everything, there is little incentive to struggle for personal fulfillment or liberation. To succeed, both the sexual revolution and the woman's movement which led it would have to unmask chivalry and expose its courtesies as subtle manipulation. It would also have to cross class lines and join lady to factory hand, the loose and the respectable, in a common cause. To the extent it could be so, it succeeded.